All right, everybody. Greetings and hello. Welcome to Wonderland Gaming. I'm your host, Alice. This is my big ugly face. I hope you all are having a good day today. Um, I'm having less of a great day today. So, first of all, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I'm sorry I missed you this Saturday. I didn't get to see you. I was up in Indiana visiting my kids and got out just as it got super cold. Holy cow, negative 20-degree wind chill as I was leaving Indianapolis. Are you kidding me? Holy cow. But yeah. Um, so I'm back here, and when I get back, I'm catching up on things that I missed. And as those of you who live in America probably know, yesterday was inauguration day for President Trump. And we won't go into how I feel about or how I felt about President Trump prior to my coming home yesterday. But when I got home yesterday in my Discord, which you can get to if you type exclamation point Discord. Um, in my Discord, there's a channel for politics because not everybody wants to get involved with politics or see politics. So that kind of content can go on its own. And Ari had posted a link to a specific executive order signed on the first day of President Trump taking the White House. And um, I have some feelings about this executive order, and we're going to talk about this before we get into any gaming or any kind of fun. The title of this executive order is, hold on, let me see if I can get it visible here. Um, where is, there it is. Yeah. Is that still legible for you guys? Maybe, maybe not. Um, but for those of you that can't see, it's called Defending Women from Gender Ideology and Extremism. Sorry, Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism, and Restoring Biological Truth to the federal government. This is a bold statement for multiple reasons um, that I'm going to get into later. But I just want to go over this. Let me make it a little bigger. Yeah. Let me just go over this a little bit. I don't know if you've read this or if you haven't read this. And if you're not interested, that's fine. Head out now because we're going to be doing this for a little bit. And because I am not apologetic at all about going over this content. This is anathema to everything my channel is about and everything I am about. So I want it known. I don't want you to know it exists. I want you to know what it says. I want you to know what the American president has said, because this is a work of well, if you're a fan of George Orwell, this is a work of Orwellian significance in my head. What is this? This is one of the many executive orders that Donald Trump has signed on his first day in office. But we're going to go over it. So, by the authority invested in me as president by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, including Section 7301 of Title 5 United States Codes, it is hereby ordered. And then things go downhill from here. We're not going to read it word for word. If you want to read for word for word, I have linked or I've sent a link to it up above. But the first section is the purpose. Why are we doing this? And I find this particularly interesting. We'll get into it in a minute. But across the country, ideologues who deny the biological reality of sex have increasingly used legal and other socially coercive means to permit men to self identify as women and gain access to intimate single sex spaces and activities designed for women, from women's domestic abuse shelters to women's workplace showers. Um, well, first of all, I need to let everybody know. We're not denying the existence of biological sex. That's not what gender identity is about. Biological sex exists. And what I do find interesting is apparently the only gender identity he's upset with is male to female transgendered people. If you're female to male, I suppose that's perfectly okay. I guess he's part of the patriarchy that believes that if a woman wants to step up and pretend to be a man, he can just slap him into place. I don't know. It doesn't say here because they're literally not addressed at all. But efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. You're right. If that's what was going on, that would be correct, but that's not at all what's going on. The erasure of sex in language is also nothing to do with what's going on right now. Basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and trust in the government itself. I wholeheartedly agree with this statement. Probably one of the very few sentences in this entire document that I actually 100% support and believe in. Now, the rest of this is political garbage that isn't scientific fact, but okay. Anyway, we go on to invalidating the true biological category of woman and properly transforms laws and policies designed to protect sex-based opportunities into laws and policies that undermine them. So this is why we're doing it. We're doing this because dirty boys are getting into clean women's bathrooms and doing dirty things. That's what this is all about. And also that we are trying to erase the biological reality of sex, which is not what is going on at all. So policy and definitions. So now that we've said, hey, you can't do your gender identity bullshit, we need definitions of what sex is. So sex shall refer to an individual's immutable. This is the government dictating what the definition of the word sex is. I need to be very clear on that. Again, if you're a big Orwellian, and if you don't know who I'm talking about George Orwell, talk about the book 1984, and I'm talking about the concept of newspeak, where the government steps in and shapes language. Because if you want to control what people think, you control what people can and cannot say. That's step one. Sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity, which, again, I guess here's another sentence I agree with. That is correct. These two are distinct ideas. Also, this is biologically incorrect. From a biological standpoint, there are not just male and female sexes. Talk to any intersex person in the United States or anywhere else, they'll fucking tell you. Talk to any doctor that studies genetics. This is not the case. Granted, it is the majority of cases. So, but are you literally going to say that the majority can now just eliminate the entire existence of the minority? Because I thought that's not what the United States was about. And then we go into what women, woman, girl, and girls are. By the way, sex apparently no longer includes the concept of actually copulation. Being intimate with another person is not having sex with them, because that's not what that means, apparently, according to the government. Yeah, this is double plus on good. Then we go on to say, okay, here's what a man or boy is. And female can only be a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. And male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. They're talking about the egg and the sperm here. So if you happen to be a person born without ovaries or testes, you're not male or female. You just don't exist in the eyes of the government. That's just what is going on here. Gender ideology replaces the biological category of sex with an ever shifting concept of self assigned gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. That's not what the definition of gender ideology is. This is patently false. Oh, and then section 3 says recognizing women are biologically distinct from men. Within 30 days of this order, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall provide to the U.S. government, external partners, and the public clear guidance expanding on the sex-based definition set forth in this order. Again, the government is going to identify for us what these scientific concepts are. You wouldn't be sexless, Sofa, because that doesn't exist in the eyes of the government. Only males or females exist in the eyes of the government, according to this document. So if you're intersex or born without the capability of producing eggs or sperm, then you do not have a definition of the eyes of the U.S. government. And that sounds silly, and it sounds like I'm taking this to the extreme, but it's important because they're making this very important in this document, and it means something later on. We'll go over that in a few minutes. Each agency and all federal employees shall enforce laws governing sex-based rights, protections, opportunities, and accommodations to protect men and women as biologically distinct sexes. Each agency and all federal employees shall enforce laws governing sex-based rights, protections, opportunities, and accommodations to protect men and women as biologically distinct sexes. This is taking these definitions further, and it is basically saying we need to pass laws and agencies of the U.S. government need to develop policies that outlaw anything that doesn't match the concept of strictly male and female existence. We're not talking about just simple policies and guidances. We want to enforce laws that do this, which means if you aren't doing this, you are breaking the law. That's what he wants. And further establishes that, hey, we identified what sex, male, female, men, women, boys, and girls are, and every agency has to use those definitions and nothing else. Again, it's newspeak, guys. By the way, I've read 1984 multiple times. It isn't just about the story of a dystopian society and somebody who rebels against that dystopian society. It's about the fact that after he rebels, at the end, there's no happy ending. They capture him, they torture him for months, and then they literally use various manipulation techniques to make it so he believes he loves the government that oppresses him. It doesn't end happy. He ends up loving the dystopian society that he knows lies to him. He dearly loves it. That would be illegal, Vinmist. No, gender identity doesn't exist, Pretty Beard. The government outlawed it. Doesn't exist. That's what this executive order says. The Secretary of State and Homeland Security and the Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall implement changes to require the government-issued identification documents, including passports, visas, and global entry cards, accurately reflect the holder's sex as defined under Section 2 of this order. By the way, this now means I can't get a passport because my birth certificate says that I am female. And the legal definition of female is not what is happening to my body right now. So since those two things don't match, I technically can't lawfully get a passport. I also can't work for the government. Agencies shall remove all statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, and other internal and external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology, and shall cease issuing such statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, and other messages. If you are supporting gender identity, then you could receive no assistance from the U.S. government. And that's huge. Agency forms that require an individual's sex shall list male or female and shall not request gender identity. Agencies shall take all necessary steps as permitted by law to end the federal funding of gender ideology. This also means that if you are transgendered at all, anywhere on the trans rainbow, if you are intersex, which is not on the transgender rainbow, if you are trans, if you are non-gendered, if you are bigendered, if you are gender non-conforming, if you are anything other than strictly male and strictly female, or intersex, or born without the ability to produce eggs or sperm, then you can't do things like, I don't know, fill out the FAFSA and get an education without paying for it out of pocket, or getting somebody to a non-government agency to help you with your education. You would have to get something else. And there's other options out there, granted, but no more government-backed loans, no more government-backed what is it? It's not loans. It's I can't remember what it's called, but there's another thing that you don't have to pay back that the government gives, so you can get an education. Can't get those either. The prior administration argued that the Supreme Court's decision in Bostock versus Clayton County 2020, which addressed Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, requires gender identity-based access to single-sex bases under, for example, Title IX of the Education Amendments Act. This position is legally untenable and has harmed women. How? Both of those statements, how? The Attorney General, shall therefore immediately issue guidance to agencies to correct the misapplication of the Supreme Court's decision in Bostock versus Clayton County to sex-based distinctions in agency activities. In addition, the Attorney General shall issue guidance and assist agencies in protecting sex-based distinctions, which are explicitly permitted under constitutional and statutory precedent. So what is this? I was like, I'm not familiar with Bostock versus Clayton County. So I fucking looked it up. This is from the Supreme Court of the United States, supremecourt.gov. You can find this document just like I did. Bostock versus Clayton County, decided June 15th, 2020. And I highlighted a specific section because I'll be honest, a lot of this is law stuff and it's complicated. But a summary. These terms, the terms that were defined up here, generate the following rule. An employer violates Title VII when it intentionally fires an individual employee based in part on sex. This has been used multiple times to basically say, hey, you can't fire me because I declared I was trans. It's not legal, according to the federal government. And the Supreme Court stepped in and said, well, you're not allowed, according to the federal government and law, you're not allowed to make decisions to hire and fire based on somebody's sex. If you look at somebody and you say you were male and now you're presenting female, that is their sex, according to the government, right? Because there's no gender identity. So it's just sex. Use sex to determine whether you're going to keep that person on or not. You can't do that. It's not allowed. However, this is Trump saying, yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. That's what you should do. You can go and do that because that's not what this means. You can't use gender ideology. It doesn't exist. Remember, we just outlawed it. So therefore, we can use sex to determine Okay. It's a little roundabout there. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But let's continue reading. It makes no difference if other factors besides the plaintiff's sex contributed to the decision or that the employer treated women as a group the same when compared to men as a group. A statutory violation occurs if an employer intentionally relies in part on an individual's employee's sex when deciding to discharge the employee. Because discrimination on the basis of homosexuality or transgender status requires an employer to intentionally treat individual employees differently because of their sex, an employer who intentionally penalizes an employee for being homosexual or transgender also violates Title VII. There is no escaping the role intent plays. Just as sex is necessary, a but-for clause when an employer discriminates against homosexuality or transgender employees, an employer who discriminates on these grounds inescapably intends to rely on sex in his decision making. And he says, no, it doesn't. You don't have that power, Mr. President. That's not what your role is. You don't have that power even with a fucking executive order. That's not what it's for. The Supreme Court can't say, hey, we're outlawing all guns, for example. Not that they would ever do that, but if they did, we're outlawing all guns. The president can't sign an executive order saying, hey, guns are legal. Ha ha, fuck you, the Supreme Court. Pale Grinds, thank you, by the way. All right. Federal funds should not be used to promote gender ideology. So if you have any gender clinics that are helping young or older people with HRT of any kind, not allowed. By the way, good luck for those unfortunate people that need to go on HRT for some reason other than being trans. Like my son, who just told me that he has a testosterone level of 86. He has 86. The average total testosterone level for men is between 270 and 1070, depending on age. He is between 20 and 24, so it should be between 409 and 558. His is 86. Privacy in intimate spaces. The Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security shall ensure that males are not detained in women's prisons or housed in women's detention centers, including through amendment as necessary of Part 115.41, blah, blah, blah. So if you're trans and you go to federal prison, you are cut off from HRT. You cannot, but that's not what this part says. Where is that? Here it is. Shall ensure that no federal funds are expended for any medical procedure, treatment, or drug for the purpose of conforming an inmate's appearance to that of the opposite sex. So if you are trans and you go to prison, you are done. By the way, if you're trans, it's illegal to be who you are. So it's very likely that you're going to federal prison. So at which point the government will very helpfully detransition you. I'm just pausing to let that sink in. To me and everybody else. I'm trying to be as calm as I can be. I'm trying to tear this apart limb from limb as it goes through. But I'm going to tell you what this means. If you are trans, if you are intersex, if you are complicated in any way through your gender or your biological sex, the US government doesn't want you here. There is no more explicit way to say that. The Attorney General shall issue guidance to ensure the freedom to express the binary nature of sex and the right to single sex spaces in workplaces and federally funded entities covered by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He has the balls to invoke the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to say, this is why we're being prejudiced, and this is why we're discriminating against this group of people. We're doing it because of equality. Within 30 days, guys, this is the chilling part. Because executive orders are essentially the president saying, I want these things to happen. They're not law. But he knows that. He's been president before. Section 6, bill text. Within 30 days of the date of this order, the assistant to the president for legislative affairs shall present to the president proposed bill text to codify the definitions in this order. I want this to be law. We will then make it unlawful to use the term gender identity. It will be unlawful to use the term sex to mean anything other than a person's biology. It will be illegal to actually physically be intersex. That's what this means. I'm not overreacting. I'm not scaremongering. I'm reading what the fucking text of this man's executive order is saying. I want to outlaw gender identity entirely from the United States of America. And I looked all day long. And I waited for anybody from any state, any governor, any senator, any order that are posted in the House of Representatives. Nobody addressed this. My government just told me that I'm not welcome here. Not only am I not welcome here, but I'm not allowed to leave because I can't get a passport. Pretty Beard, I hear what you're saying. I see what you're typing. I appreciate it. But the number of times I have heard them say Trump can't do that, and he went ahead and fucking did it anyway, and he got away with it, I can't even count. It's at least 20 times. I don't believe it. I don't believe he can't do it because people are too scared of him, or he's too charismatic. You know who else wanted to make their country great again? It was super charismatic and made changes like this to his country, and it worked, and he got away with it. Because I know. And they told him, you can't outlaw the Jews. You can't outlaw the gays. You can't outlaw mentally unstable people. And you know what happened? He outlawed mentally unstable people and had them executed. They were the first to go. And people lost their fucking minds in Germany over it. And he said, oh, well, I won't sign any more papers that say that anymore. I'm still going to do things. I'm just not going to put my name on it. So you don't know that I did it. So you can't prosecute me for it. This is, hey, within 6 months, I want every agency to report to me and say that you've done what I've asked. Also, I want you to change all agency documents. I want you to erase the fact that we allowed it as if it didn't exist. By the way, if you're receiving federal funding at all, like almost every university, almost every community college, you're affected by this directly. Oh, and by the way, this is retroactive. So anything anybody else has said about gender ideology and equality, um, that's it's repealed. And the White House Gender Policy Council, established by Executive Order 14020, is dissolved. I don't want to hear arguments. That's what this is. Each agency is to rescind all guidance documents inconsistent with the above. I'm mad. And you should be too. I don't care if you're trans or straight or cisgendered, somewhere between. This should anger you. The US government just issued an executive order saying there is a class of people on our soil that we don't want here. And people think this is okay. I'm going to help you guys a little bit. This isn't okay. And what I need you to do, at a minimum, is to look around you and look to see if you know anybody who is gender questioning at all. Look around you and see anybody who might be intersex or anything else that the United States government defines as unacceptable. I need you to locate those people, and I need you to do two things. The first thing I need you to do is I need you to tell them that you don't need an executive order to tell you that a person's existence is valid. They need to know that you were there for them because the people of this country elected this man, and this was done on day one. This is who the majority of people in this country voted for. And this is one of the very first things that he did on the very first day of his 4 years in power. And the second thing I need you to do is to tell them that you're here for them and ask them if they're okay, because chances are they're not. the LGBTQIA plus community in the United States has the highest rate of suicide of nearly any other minority group in the US. And of those, the most vulnerable are transgendered people. And why do they feel that way? They feel that way because they think that you're not welcome. Now, I've built this channel on the 3 rules. Very simple 3 rules. Be kind to yourself, you be kind to others, and you be respectful. Sorry, hold on. Those are the 3 rules. I need to explain something to you right now. I pride myself on the ability to listen to another person's viewpoint. I pride myself on the ability to have a calm discussion based on facts, on the pros and cons of a decision. I'm telling you now, if you voted for Donald Trump to be our president, don't talk to me. And I don't mean, hey, give me an hour, give me a week, and I'll get over it. What I mean is, I don't want to talk to you because I cannot follow my rules when I talk to you. Unless the discussion is around, hey, I didn't know and I'm sorry. What can I do to help? I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be seen with you. I don't want to be near you. I don't want to be associated with you in any way, shape, or form because I cannot be civil around you. And I don't want to be. I don't even feel bad about not being civil around you because you betrayed me. And if you continue to support this man, then I definitely don't want you in my life at all. Period. Full stop. Because if there's anybody in this country that doesn't deserve to be here, it's somebody that supports this bullshit. This is not what America was founded on, nor is it what's going to make us great again, nor is it what our country is supposed to be about. And there's no excusing it. Don't try. And I'm telling my moderators now, if you see it in chat, if you see anybody hinting at supporting this bullshit, ban them, and I don't want to see them again. There's no debate. There's no questions. There's no, oh, wait, maybe they didn't mean, I don't care. Ban them. And we're done. Now I want to tell you, people come to this channel to be entertained. They come to this channel because they want to enjoy themselves and relax. They don't come to hear me preach. But I didn't bring this to a head. I didn't do this. He did. And his supporters did it. And they're continuing to do it every day. This will not stand. I want people who think they don't have a voice to reach out and find one. By the end of the week, I'm going to have a new channel up on my Discord. It's going to be for IRL support. I want to make it clear that nobody in my community is an official mental health representative, but we are here to listen. And if you want to know where your voice can be heard, then we will find those resources and we will help provide them. If you were in a bad situation and you need help, we will do our best to find out where you can get that help and what your next steps are. But I will do everything in my power to make sure you are safe. And that's all I have to say about that.